In this video, we will be going through an activity using Posit Cloud, and I will also cover background information from 1.3 data sources in our textbook. Before we get started with our activity in Posit Cloud, you'll want to do a couple of things. The first one is to go to Canvas and then Modules, and then scroll down to Datasets and download Hotel Tutorial Dataset. This is an Excel file. When it comes to Excel files, you have a couple of different options to see what it looks like. You could look at it within Canvas itself, or if you have Excel installed on your computer, you could certainly use that to take a look at this. Or if you don't have that, another option is to go to office.com, log in with your university credentials, and then use Excel to open that file. And then the next thing you need to do to even begin to use Posit Cloud is to set up an account for yourself. Now, I'm already logged in as myself, so let me show you what it looks like when you're not logged in yet. So go to posit.cloud, and on the top right, you'll have two options: sign up or log in. So if you don't already have an account, you'll want to go through the sign up process and follow instructions. You will be asked to verify your email address and will be sent an email from Posit Cloud. Click on the link provided in the email, follow the instructions, and then now you'll be able to log in and be ready to work within our R space. This one right here, your workspace. Speaking of R is a fairly common statistical software that is used by data analysts. And so we will be using that in this course. And as I mentioned in the previous video, we're not going to get deep into the math. I just want to be able to show you how to use this tool to analyze data sets. And so that will involve you doing a little bit of coding, but we're not here to learn about coding. So I'm just going to give you the code that you will need in order to run statistical analysis. Okay, so now that you have your Excel file downloaded and you have your account set up and you're logged in, we're ready to get started. Here in the top right, you'll find a new project button. So go to that. And from the drop down, you'll have a few options. What you want to choose is New RStudio Project. Let's give it a moment to get started, to get loaded. All right. First thing we want to do is go ahead and change the untitled project to your last name. And then Analytics Activity 1. That way you can keep your files organized as we do more activities. In your workspace, you'll find that we have different panels. And actually, one of the first things I like to do when I first get on there before I forget is this stuff on the left. It takes up a lot of space, right? So we can minimize that by clicking on the logo here, or not there, the X. And then see, we got more space now. All right, going back to what we have here, we have different panels. We have this panel here where it has console, terminal, or background jobs. In this class, we'll be concentrating on working in console. And then over in this panel where it has environment, history, connections, and tutorial, this is where we're going to find different objects within R. including variables and data sets. And then over here, we have files, plots, packages, help, viewer, presentation. So this is where we will be working when we are dealing with these different items. So later on in the semester or in our other marketing analytics courses, we're going to work with plots, for example, and then packages would be later on. Packages would be the kind of things that would allow us to use different functionalities within Posit Cloud. They're not already loaded on there because we don't need all of them, right? It'll just slow down performance. And then files, well, this will be how we will upload in a minute or two our data set that we just downloaded. That would be this hotel tutorial data set. Let's start with installing a package. Go to this panel on the left, the console, and look for this greater than sign. This is where you'll want to type your command. And you'll want to do this exactly as I show here because R is pretty fussy about syntax that's incorrect. So type in install dot packages space, and then I did an opening parentheses and it automatically included the closing, so I didn't have to type that in. And then within the opening and closing parentheses in double quotes, so again I typed in a double quote and then it did the other one automatically. So between those two double quotes, you'll want to type in summary tools. And then once you have this typed in, install.packages space and then summary tools, you can click on return to execute this command. At this point, if you did it correctly, you'll see a bunch of red text as R is installing the package. So don't be alarmed. This is perfectly normal. We'll just give the software a few seconds to get this installed. All right, so once it's done, let me move this out of the way. It'll say done over there, and then it'll just stop doing its thing, and there'll be another greater than sign where we could do the next command if that's what we were going to do. However, at this point, we're ready to download or upload, not download, we're ready to upload the Excel file, the data set that we will be using to analyze or go through different activities. So now we can go to this pane right here, and one of your options under files is to upload. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I have this data set saved in a particular spot on my computer, so you'll want to do the same. Find your hotel tutorial data set. And when you click on upload, you'll have an option to choose file, and then from there navigate to where you have that. So here's my Excel file. And once you have that chosen, click on open and then OK. And if it uploaded successfully, it'll be one of the files listed under files. So here it is right here, hotel tutorial data set. The next step is to click on it and you'll see you have two options. What you want is import data set, and you'll probably get this message that says install required packages. Do you want to install this package now? And we can say Yes. So R is going to install yet another package so that we will have the capability to import this data set. And then when it's done, you're going to see this window right here, import Excel data, and you'll see a preview of your data. So presumably this would be the types of data that would come from, or that hotels would keep track of. Okay, so now that we have this loaded here, this would be a good time to go over background information. So here's an example of a data set, right? And I talked about how this would be the kind of information that hotels would keep track of. Well, backing up even further to the earlier video, the first video in this playlist, I talked about how data can come from many different sources. And so here's a section in chapter 1 talking about that. We have two different types of data. We have primary data and then there's secondary data. Primary data is collected for a specific purpose. So we are have chosen to collect this data in order to answer a specific marketing problem or business question that we might have. So, for example, if we want to learn more about customer experiences, then that would be when we might send out a survey, for example, to ask people, how was your experience? Or perhaps we have a set of interview questions that we would ask our customers or participants regarding a specific product, perhaps, or maybe we want to learn more about their thoughts on other topics that would be useful to us. So, the main thing to think about is that this has a specific purpose. It is exactly for studying a particular phenomenon. Now, secondary data, that's just information that's collected for another purpose. A common example would be just from doing business, we collect data. So, for example, just from the hotel doing business, this is the kind of information that they would collect anyway. Another example would be, say, sales information. For every sales transaction at a grocery store, they just capture information about that transaction, the time, the credit card that was used or form of payment, all the different items that were bought. So that type of information, it's not being collected for a particular study, but it's just going on a database so that perhaps it could be used later on to perform data analytics. And then another common source of secondary data would be government sources. And there's some information on here about different types of examples of government sources. So the point of all this, me talking about this, is to say that data that we will analyze is not just going to be something that we make up, right? It's going to come from different places, and it's going to come from us either purposely collecting data to answer a question or looking at different sources of data to see what kinds of information, what kinds of patterns, what kinds of decisions we can make from analyzing that data. And for us to analyze the data, we'll need statistical software. And there are many examples out there. And for this class, we're using Posit Cloud. And so now here we are here. With that said, let's go back to Posit Cloud and do one more thing before we conclude this video. When it comes to names, it's not really a great idea to have long dataset names. And so let's change that. Let's take out dataset, take out tutorial. Let's just make it to where it's just hotel. And then to change it to hotel, this is important here, click on tab. And when I clicked on tab, it imported this data set. If you look at the code preview, it simplified it to just hotel. And then once you clicked on tab, click on import. And then now we will have another pane within our workspace. This one right here where we can see our data, a preview of it. All right, so that concludes this portion of this tutorial. In the next video, we're going to take a break from POSIT and we'll talk about the next section in our textbook, data types.